In 1980, a young man was beaten in an election. And that young man said, prior to the election, he said, if you cheat me if you cheat me in these forthcoming elections, I'm going to the bush. That gentleman, went into the elections, he lost, and he went to the bush. And his justification for going to the bush was the electoral process was flawed, the democracy and its tenets, or rather the functionalities of democracy had gone to the dogs. So that gentleman thought it wise to take to the arms and overhaul the system and introduce the new current system that we are quote-unquote enjoying. But if I pose a question to this my panel here, is this what the forefathers of the national resistance movement went to the bush for? Because the chaos that we witnessed, you could sit and ask yourself, what is the difference between this that we've witnessed in 2025 vis-a-vis what happened in 1980? So how many years are those? From 1980 to 2025, that's more than 34 years, right?
Yes.
So if something is like this for 34 years, I think common sense, logic, and science would dictate that there is something amiss. And we need to revamp it, restructure it, or overhaul it entirely. Now, for the different categories of the elections that were held, the Entrepreneurs League, the non-unionized workers, we had the chairpersons of the different regions, the older persons. Why is it that the most contentious, not that all others were fluid, why is the most contentious Kalulu, the one of the youth? We sit on this show and its label is called the Youth of Purpose.
Yes.
And the reason that we sit here is to look at these things and analyze them from a lens that is, one, not biased, two, a lens that is neutral, and it gives a response that is universal and problem evoking and solution seeking. So, if in our analysis now we realize that the elections that were held were marred with a lot of irregularities, the question is, as young people, are we going to sit and we lament? After all, we saw everything that happened. Or are we going to go back to the drawing board? Like we always say, as young people, we don't antagonize, but we rather organize. So my 2 cents is, one, we have to call for the explicit reform in the electoral laws of the land. Because less than a year from now, we're going into the general elections. So if what happened at Kololo last week is anything to go by, what is the precedent that is being set by the powers that be, especially to us, the young people? Secondly, the people that are not in the National Resistance Movement party, what is it that they are learning from the movement? And in the event that they hold elections that are equally or worse in terms of Kavio and also the good things, do we look at them and blame them, or do we now generate what we call the national electoral question? I beg to submit for now. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Emanzi, for that. To get to you, Edgar, you well know that the kind of commercialization of politics in Uganda, not even just within the NRM party, is quite alarming. And I think this has not been even different from what was witnessed last week. In a state where a vote, just one vote, goes to as much as 1 million or even above, we are talking about elections of the young people, by the young people, for the young people. We are crying unemployment as young people. What is happening? And also, when you look at the fact that the election was actually postponed, well knowing that at that point there were so many young people contesting, giving money to this and that and that. Perhaps on that day they thought this was the final. Those who got loans maybe got the last loan they could get at that point. Where does this leave the future of the quality of leadership that we envision as young people with this curtail of money?
Thank you very much. That is a very contentious topic because we have come to inherit a country. We are yet to, because most of us are still rising in the ranks. But this country that we're supposed to inherit, currently, there is a syndicate. In Makerere, we used to call them systems. We thought we were dealing with these things in Makerere, the Sisi Wenyewes, the new kids. But now, they've metamorphosized, and at national level, you have the system where the speaker falls, we have the system where the original NRA falls, and they sit down and they say, we need this person. What do we do? They call ISO, they call Nrm Secretariat, they call ECMI, even ESO sometimes, and they say, how much money can we get? How much in terms of resources can we pull? And this person goes through. Why? 3 things. When these people go through, they influence the awarding of PPDA contracts. PPDA is one of the most silent but influential organizations in this country because it determines all the procurement that is done by government. And through that, they reward themselves. And even monthly, they get a share of the money. And also, these international trips, a lot of them are awarded, but few of them are serviced. So they release millions of money for people to travel every month, but they never go. So we have a lot of people that are looking at what they can benefit from Edgar Stewart Mugisha being a youth MP of Western Uganda, but they are not thinking about what will that village boy from Shema who voted for Edgar Stewart benefit. So they are willing to commercialize the election as long as what they want is what is achieved. Going into the future, we shall reach a point whereby Honorable Kadaga's words will come to fruition, whereby the ideas of a leader are not what determines if they are voted. We shall have such a low standard. Okay, honestly, the bar is low now. I don't know where it will be in future. But when I see such a future, I bleed and I feel bad for our country. Museveni came into power and promised a fundamental change of guard. Unfortunately, the people that he went to the bush so that he could no longer massage are the people that everyone around him is massaging. Museveni comes and speaks the radical truth when he's speaking, but the people around him behave contrary. We have the government behaving contrary to what its president is saying. And honestly, the system is rotten. And I love the fact that even the commander-in-chief himself appreciated it when there was a security issue and people could not go through the head of intelligence. They had to go through his daughter, Natasha. He said that the system is rotten. Now, if we have a rotten system that has pushed the youth to the wall to the point that we couldn't hold a peaceful election because of the commercialization and interests of the people in the various systems that govern the country, I believe we not only need a fundamental change in government, but a radical change in government. Uganda is at a point where we need a leader who will stand up and say, this is wrong and this must change. And he does not shift from that standpoint till when everything changes. We have so many presidential directives that have never been implemented. Why? We have focused so much on the generation of fundamental changes. I believe it is now time for radical people to take over. And to the fellow youth listening to this program, do not be ashamed of being radical in this government. Your time to shine will come. Thank you so much.
Young people out there, do not feel ashamed to be radical in this government. All you have to do is to stand and say for the truth. President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, 6 days ago on his Twitter, tweeted something which I'm going to read verbatim. To the young people, by rejecting practices you believe are wrong, you are becoming the true members of NRM and embodying the party's core principles. The key is in how you express your dissatisfaction. To our leaders, please do not alienate our members through injustice and corruption. When these acts occur, you risk losing their trust and support. Miracle.
Yes.
What are young people themselves doing? Because, like Edgar said, we cannot keep lamenting about the same system of young people's commercialization of politics. We cannot keep lamenting about the same system, yet we, who are supposed to be the first to change ourselves, are actually at the front line of saying, give me Chigati. If you don't give me 1 million, I'm not voting for you. You reach a level where, as a candidate running an election, you feel like you made a wrong decision. And to me, it gives the question of, do people actually take on these spaces to serve, or is it something else? I recommend Gold Ikiriza. I have seen Gold Ikiriza's open letter to the president condemning the practices of young people and also the machineries and the state that front such ideas, yet they are actually supposed to fight against it. But that is just a one goal. And so many other candidates are afraid to speak because they've either done the same or they want to be at the mercy of voters. What do we as young people do to front change in terms of what we keep lamenting day in, day out in the political spaces?
Okay. I think what the young people are supposed to do in such a situation is to be, first of all, examples of change. You've given an example of Gold. We have many young people coming up in very many positions. We leave alone even the Youth League and so. We have the National Youth Council, the WUNSA. And for us to actually walk the talk, we need to be intentional. For the people that are coming on board, can they be vocal about what they believe? We've seen very, very few people are very confident about what they believe in, about what they trust is the truth, about what they believe is the sole reason as to why they're standing in power. And I believe we need more of such people to front change, but also give information to those that come after them. For us to spring up a generation of leaders that are trying to live in an environment, are resilient, are trying to live in an environment that is, yes, poisoned or not moving on well, but are trying to champion change. And another thing is that the young people should be able to know who to talk to in the first place.
Who do we talk to as young people?
Okay, who do we talk to? I believe that as a young person, as a young leader, we all have mentors in these spaces.
Yes.
We have people that we look up to, people who have made it, keeping their integrity. Can we try to model these people? Can we try to reach out to these people, to ask them? There are people who have made it in this government. There are people who have stood up, who have led the people, who have served this country. And I believe those are people that we need to look up to. And those are people that we need to reach out to. Can we have conversations? Can we have a nurturing? Can we, because mentoring is very, very much key. We are still very young people. We are very vibrant, but we need direction. So we need to identify who to talk to and what to talk about and how to be nurtured. Yes.
In a verge where young people are lost in trying to seek for mentorship, but also get lost in the same. You perhaps want your mentor to be Colonel so-and-so, or you want your mentor to be Minister so-and-so. And sometimes what they portray, maybe because of different interests, could depart from what you actually intended or thought you'd benefit from them. And when you're captured within that, That now someone is telling you, my young daughter, run this election, I'm there to fund the whole election. And you end up being used as a young person while trying to seek mentorship. How best do we see those leaders that we think are actually up to the standards that we measure, and are they there anyways?
Yeah. How do we see these leaders? I believe that in various capacities where we are, it does not matter which position someone is holding.
Yes.
It does not matter. What matters actually is someone doing, okay, what someone is doing, is it really, is it inspiring you? Is it something that you want to do? It could be anyone, really. It could be anyone. We have different leadership capacities. I myself, I love leadership. I love diplomacy. I've reached out to different people who are leaders in different capacities, and I talk to them and I reach out. These are not people in maybe a general somewhere or maybe a governor somewhere. No, these are people who have the experience. These are people who have the passion, who have walked the talk. There are very many. The problem is sometimes we are blinded. We are blinded. Really, money is blinding us. And sometimes we think that people who have money are people that who actually should talk to us, or the people we should talk to. But that is a lie. The people that we should actually talk to are people who have walked the talk. People we see that, yes, someone has done this for their people. Someone is respected in society. Someone is upheld for whatever they have done. And those are people that we should look up to. And they're right there with us in every sector that we are in. Yeah.
Interesting. Emanzi.
Yes.
Youth participation within the NRM party as a reflection of the global or even the national youth leaders within the other political parties. Does it have a mark? Does it put young people behind, or does it inspire young people, especially within the opposition, to show that there is much more that can actually be done? Because if we are looking at for example, months ago, under the Uganda Young Democrats, when they're having their national elections for the Youth League, you remember almost a similar incident happened, and people went almost over 2 days without voting. This is exactly what is happening within the NRM political party. So, young people within the NRM party, as a party that has been in power for more or close to 40 years, vis-a-vis young brands within the new uprising political parties in terms of quality of leadership that we are putting out there. What is your view on that?
Thank you so much, Tracy. Some few weeks ago, we had a conversation right on this panel, and we were trying to look at the effectiveness of the most political parties that we have in Africa. And we identified a need, or rather, by default settings of every political party, first and foremost is mobilization. Because a political party is as strong as its numbers, right? So for the National Resistance Movement, actually before I even go to the NRM as a party, the young people in the different political institutions in Uganda are universally viewed as, I want to think, as a threat. This is my unsolicited opinion, and this is my 2 cents. One, when you look at when the National Resistance Movement was formed back in the day, it came as an alternative that was not being produced by the current political system. Right?
Yes.
So the NRM merged as a party that had come to solve
Yes.
You know, we are going to solve this and we're going to move our country forward. We have our 10-point program. And on top of these 10 points, number one is democracy. Now, I will beg the nation to first pause right there. Democracy. Okay? Young people, let's double click at the National Resistance Movement, right? If you look at the National Resistance Youth League, when is the last time that they conducted a nationwide youth mobilization campaign?
Even when is the last time they had an election? Close to 10 years ago.
Thank you. So if they last had an election close to 10 years ago, what does that show you? It shows you that probably the person that was voted as the chairperson back then, right now, is way out of the age bracket, but I'm sure they're probably still holding the office. That would also be like a non-issue. For me, the bigger issue is what is the modus operandi of, one, recruitment of the young people, two, what is the ideological orientation that is presented to these people? Because a political party can only be strong as its numbers and its ideological standpoint. And thirdly, how practical or how functional are the structures of the party, right from the grassroots to the national executive level. But now, if you look at also at the top, at the Cec, where there is Akavuyo, right? What do you expect down here? If we look at, okay, I won't use Akavuyo as a terminology, probably it's a hard word, right? But if you look at the altercation that was happening between the two ladies, the Right Honorable Anita Mong and former Speaker Alito Alakadaga, it points to two things in my opinion. One, yes, there could be a possibility of some areas being gazetted, but also we have to listen to what are the opinions that are being shared by the opinion leaders. For example, Kadaga's point was, you cannot prioritize newcomers over us, the old guard, right? The speaker was saying, yes, we are new, but we are already at the decision-making table. So give us the access, more access actually, so that we can make more decisions to move our party forward. Both have very valid points. And how we look at it from our angle as the third party can be divergent, which is also a good indicator of democracy, right? Because I liked how when it was presented to the commander-in-chief, he was like, whoever wins, you can come and we talk, right? Now that is leadership. But the point is, do we have to get to that level? Because my brother mentioned that the person XYZ was humiliated. But I don't think losing an election is a humiliation. It can only become a humiliation through the processes. If you've been cheated openly, if you've been denied the things that you are entitled to and not given, say, the opportunity to speak and air out, I would say you were humiliated. But if a person is given all those opportunities, I think it is more of a fair ground for people to battle, but we do not have to get to that point. Now I'll come back to the youth. NRM recently conducted a mass mobilization, and as per General William Museveni's records, NRM has 20 million subscribers. 18 million. I beg your pardon. Do we know the aggregate of the youth population of the 18 million? Right? Because it's one thing to conduct a study and give us a statistic, but if it is not disaggregated for us to know of the 18 million, how many are youth, how many are women, and how many are men, then it becomes a bit complex for us to analyze it using data. Because I'm sure, as day follows night, that of the 18 million, about 9 to 10 is youth, right? Which will give us about 60% of the total population, total membership. So if we are to use just the number, that threshold, percentage threshold, the young people can use the leverage of their numbers to ask for reforms, one, at the national executive level of the national resistance movement, but also we can pile pressure to the Electoral Commission to have electoral reforms. Among top of the electoral reforms that we would seek for, in my opinion, is one, to have the young people in every political party mobilized, trained, and deployed, not as an incentive of having the boxes checked off, but as a strategy of solidifying the political parties in our country, because that is the entire fulcrum of our democracy. I beg to submit for now.
Interesting. Thank you so much, Emanzi, for that. And you raise very many pertinent issues, especially in terms of the intentionality of young people and the government in putting as many young leaders into positions that actually represent the same significance that they want to put across. To get to you, Edgar Stewart, The NRM Entrepreneurs League started it off with the violence on Monday. We saw people being hit with chairs. We saw people being ran after. We saw police beat some of the people. But also, we saw it being postponed as a result of the violation that was going on. Now, talking about a party structure, but particularly the National Resistance Movement, which one of the tactics is to, fight for human rights, but also front election free of violence. Yes, we saw the president do negotiations with the chairpersons, those who are contending for the chairperson position of the Entrepreneurs League. And luckily, as a success, one emerged and the others were willing to step down. Should this be the way forward that we do even within the other institutions? Because to me, what about us who cannot actually get there? And what about the large numbers of contestants who are not on the chairperson position, but yet are left in the same state? Because if you're looking at people complaining of delegates missing, they cannot be found. Now, you as someone running on the other position, what happens? Is there still going to be justice? Is negotiation the way to go? Or do we just chill out?
Thank you very much. I would love to point out that Museveni is a very good student of Niccolo Machiavelli. Now, Machiavelli said that when you are dealing with the populace, be mindful that the populace are ruled by emotions. And you must be the sober one who controls your emotions and is able to make the best decision suited to your needs, not the needs of the populace. The decision to make Alhaji Vasajawala Hassan the chairperson of the Entrepreneurs League is something that benefits the government, not even the party, because Alhaji Hassan Vasajawala owns KIU. King Caesar Malengo owns King Caesar University. And those are also the same people whom have serious contracts. One of them supplies rice to the military. And I have it informally on record that Alhaji Hassan Vasajawala demands the government about $587 million US. When you have someone with such a tight grip on the government, the post is theirs. It's non-negotiable. So that decision should never be the way we take when we are handling issues. And I believe where we are currently, if we take such a decision to the youth wing or the other wings, we will have an even worse state. Because currently we have a central executive committee where 80% of the members are from the western part of the country. If we decide that we are going to resolve issues amicably, you'll find 100% are from the western part of the country. You find the western person contesting for Nrm Vice Chairperson Karamoja. And I strongly condemn that. Now, when we come to the issue of the youth, we have seen, for those who have gotten a chance to read Mahmoud Mamdani's books, in one of his books, Imperialism and Fascism in Uganda, he explained how there was this young generation of pre-colonial youth that got access to money. When they got access to money, they became a privileged working class. The colonialists loved them so much, and in the end they were called the petty bourgeoisie. Now this petty bourgeoisie believed in their money so much that they brought Idi Amin into power. When they brought Idi Amin into power, they convinced him that he should send the Indians away so that they could take over their businesses. What they forgot is that they were not trained to manage those businesses. And in the end, that working class led to the collapse of an economy that at that time was as big as South Korea's. And now we are nowhere close. Now, Museveni has read those books very well. He has been a student of Marxism, and I believe if him and Robert Greene sat in the same room, they would share notes. Now, he knows that the youth that we have now are starting to gain money. Because currently in the Youth League, it was an election for the privileged few, the chairperson race. I see Uganda moving into a direction that is threatening the presidency, the person of the presidency. Why? We have a class among the youth that I could say is mirroring the petty bourgeoisie. Why? They have power, they have money, and they make very selfish decisions. And unless this class is checked, we are going to have problems. That is why I cannot recommend the president mediating issues concerning the Youth League. Because from the people that are contesting currently, I could say they're just the privileged few among the youth. So it would just be a decision that would favor those ones and not actually tackle the issues affecting the youth. So as a country, we need to look at that and see, are we going to settle for less and repeat the mistakes of our elders, or are we going to actually change the narrative? Because we are heading in a very grim state, economically and politically. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Edgar, for that. Miracle, what must be done?
Yeah, what must be done? I think, first of all, the issues that we've seen in these elections should not be underlined, should actually be worked on. Things like lack of information dissemination, lack of clarity, and the monetization. If these issues can be tackled, and I say if they can be tackled, I believe the elections themselves that we are eyeing for in 2026 can be we can have a better approach. So first of all, this has been a learning ground for the issues that are very important that need to be worked on, and that calls for reforms in the monetization, especially the monetization of these elections. That is a very, very pertinent issue that needs to be tackled. And from this, I believe it can give a fair representation of all people in this country, of all the young people, giving them an opportunity. And also, we should have these elections, when you look at the youth delegates, the delegate conference, I cannot call that a delegate conference. That wasn't a delegate conference. It was marred by disorganization. I do not know what to term it, but as a country, we need to do better. We need to do better. We are in a new era. This is a generation of very, very intelligent young people, and that should be reflected. And also, we also need the young people to be respected. This is the only election for the young people that was halted. This is the only election, the others were not. So it shows that a certain category of people is being, pushed down the boat. We need these people to be respected as young adults who are actually the future of this generation. And on that point, we want to call for, I think, better organization, better information dissemination, and not to underlook the issues that have been re-echoed. We've had people come on forums, talk about these issues, call upon the chairperson, call upon the Electoral Commission, and yes, we shall re-echo once again. Let these issues be worked on for a better election and for a better Uganda. Thank you.
Delegates should behave like delegates. I think we already see when we have delegates here in Uganda from outside, how they are treated. We even hold some of the traffics and channel new maps of movements. So delegates of Uganda, you're representing very many young people out there from the communities where you come from. And NASA's call is behave like delegates. But also I think there are issues there that could be making the delegates not to behave like delegates. The external pressures that come through. Emanzi, what must be done?
Thank you. I don't know what must be done, but I know what should be done. For starters, what should be done, I cannot overemphasize what my sisters just mentioned. Like, this is 2025. in this day and age, at the level of our civilization, not just by the as Ugandans, like where the world has reached, you know, how the world is moving and transforming at a very supersonic rate. When you look back and see how we are organizing ourselves to get the leaders who are going to organize us and the way they are disorganized, it just kills one. It kills the hopes of especially the young people. And two, it sends, in my opinion, it sends a message that, wait a minute, even after all these years, if things are still like this, we are on our own. But I don't believe we are on our own. If we look at the history of Africa, we have survived a lot of things for us to still be standing today. I won't go back into the nitty-gritties, but if we've survived everything that has been directly sent in our direction, and we survived it, I think we can also maneuver this. And how do we do this? One, knowledge is power, Bantumwe. I can't ever emphasize this. Knowledge is power. If we do not have a critical mass of youth that have not only gone to school, which is a basic, but also invested in themselves the gift of adding knowledge to themselves in the areas, in all areas, all the facets of life. Science, technology, leadership, philosophy, economics, the environment, sexual reproductive health rights, among others. Unless we, as a generation, we challenge ourselves to read, get the knowledge, and change systems from a knowledge point of view, we are still going to have our candidates that we want. They will get into power and they will do nada for the rest of us. And we shall blame the system. Yet we are part of the system. Why? Because we send these people. Two, that is knowledge, that I cannot overemphasize it. Secondly, we have to take advantage of the gift that we have in Uganda, and that gift is peace. Not many countries in Africa can make the statement I've just made right now on TV, that the gift we have in Uganda of peace, we have to take advantage of it. Why? Because if you look at Uganda, we are hosting most refugees in our country. What does that show you? It shows you that actually you guys are peaceful. You have peace, relative peace, should I say. How are we using that peace? Are we using the peace to throw chairs at each other at a delegates conference? Or are we actually using this peace as a bedrock to develop revolutionary policies, mechanisms, and approaches to change the lives of the Wananchi by starting with the young people who are the major labor force, the biggest number, and the hope of Uganda and Africa? I thank you.
Thank you so much, Emanzi. Just in 30 seconds, Edgar, your parting shots and what you think should be done.
Thank you very much. I'd love to first comment on his submission earlier. The youth that are in this country are the majority. But we were surprised when we dug up the registers of the parties and even the National EC register. The youth that are registered voters are few. When you compare with the number of registered voters that are above 30, they double us. So, first of all, what needs to be done is civic engagement. They released information, they put adverts, and the youth didn't go to register. So, when we sit down and we tell these youth that you're not supposed to be desperate, your vote actually matters, it will change a lot. Unfortunately, there's no allowance for that. So whoever wants to do it must do it out of goodwill. Secondly, all the youth that have the capacity to reason and understand what's going on must come together. Even for the bush war to happen, 27 clever young people had to go together to the bush. We must come together and then demonstrate our way of leadership. Because we have spoken. I have seen very good orators get the mic and say, this must be done, but I have not seen anyone do it. I was speaking with a comrade and they said, people have so much sense, but very few people even do it when they get leadership. So those who have been trusted with leadership positions, the National Youth Council, in the league, in the party, in government, please demonstrate the leadership style that you want to hand over to your children. Lastly, and most importantly, read extensively. I cannot stress this enough. We have people whom cannot sustain a 30-minute intellectual conversation because they lack the data to submit. And yet, you're supposed to be educating people whom didn't go to school. Read beyond what you studied, read about political philosophy, read about the economy, and help the people whom didn't get the chance to go to school to be able to acquire knowledge that they could not get. Thank you so much for hosting me. These are my passing shots.
Thank you so much, Mujisha. We've been honored to have two Mujishas on the show today. Of course, this is Youth of Purpose. We've been having Mugisha Edward Stewart, who is a youth chairperson of Shema District Central Division. We've been having Naseza Miracle, who is the deputy speaker at the Makerere University. We've been having Emanzi, who is our very own Pan-Africanist who has sold his title that way. And we've been discussing the youth perspective on the Cec, Nrm, and special interest group elections, what happened and what to expect ahead of the elections that are still to come. It's been Chesley Nakunda. Takeaway is, young people, you have voices, but also try to fight for friendlier policies, try to fight for justice, because what affects another person today might affect you tomorrow if you stay silent. Remember to always watch our conversation every Wednesday at 9 p.m. and also follow us on YouTube. Thank you so much to the production team and everyone who makes this a success. Wish you all the best. See you next time.
Youth of Purpose. Youth of Purpose.
Get your favorite health tips right here on U24. Maintain your kidney by drinking 8 to 10 glasses of water each day. This can be in form of soup, tea, water, cooked grains, and boiled vegetables.
Hi, my name is Doreen Tuhidire, coming to you from Be Money Wiser, and we're going to be bringing to you the hashtag 100 Ways to Be Money Wiser by Mrs. T. Tilda Nabandra. We're going to be running this hashtag 100 Ways to Be Money Wiser on YouTube.